Hey, I'm Tom, and this is Prima Facie, where we talk about things common sense should make obvious. Today, we're pulling the curtain back on the fantasy that pretends to be retirement plans for Americans. When I was in my 20s, the advice was simple. Save 10% of your income and you'll retire comfortably. By the time I hit 50, they quietly changed it. Actually, make that 15%. Well, thanks for the update. Too bad I needed it 30 years ago. But it turns out that's just the beginning of this mess. All the advice we've been giving is based on a fantasy. It assumes you start saving early, you have no college debt, you never pause for kids, housing, caregiving. You're financially savvy, of course. You never get divorced, you never get laid off, you never get really sick. And if you screw up even one of those, your whole future changes. They always told me, hey, have a balanced portfolio. Put 60% in stocks and 40% in bonds. That sounds safe, right? But here's the problem. Bonds don't grow like stocks. Even if the market returns 10% a year, you're not going to get that with a balanced portfolio. With a typical mix, the one they tell you to use, you're lucky to get 7%. And that's if you never panic, never sell, and never miss a year. Here's what older generations had. Retirement used to be a three-legged stool: personal savings, Social Security, and a pension. Today, you're lucky if you get two legs, and one of them's pretty shaky. Only about 15% of private sector workers have a pension now. Social Security is still there, but it's under constant threat. And personal savings, well, that's all on you. Zero margin for error there. Here's the truth. Nearly half of Americans aged 55 to 64 have no retirement savings at all, zero. The median savings for people in their 60s is about $112,000. That's roughly $400 a month for the rest of your life. Try living on $400 a month. Even with Social Security, you're screwed. And over 50% of people have cashed out their 401ks when they left the job. Why? Because they aren't robots. They're stressed, broke, and just trying to survive. So what's next? Well, here's what you're going to see. A massive wave of seniors with too little money to live on. You're going to have an explosion in multi-generational households. Parents moving in with their adult kids, not because they want to, but because they have to. We are sleepwalking toward an elderly poverty crisis, and nobody is sounding the alarm. And just add insult to injury, other countries don't do this to their citizens. In Australia, for example, employers are required to contribute to your retirement, whether you do or not. France has a national pension. So do Germany, the UK, the Netherlands, and Canada. And guess what? Every one of those countries also has universal health care. Meanwhile, Americans retire broke and sick, and then they get blamed for not saving enough. Now let's say you did everything just right. You started saving at 28, you maintained a middle-class income, you saved 10% of your gross income each and every year, you invested in a 60% stock, 40% bond portfolio like they tell you, you left it alone, you never touched it. You'd retire at 62 with just under $500,000. And before you assume I've stacked the deck to make things look worse than they really are, I haven't. This is based on real stock and bond market returns from the past 34 years. I've modeled a realistic career, starting at age 28, making $18,400, which is $50,000 in today's dollars. And by age 50, your salary hits $58,700, which is $83,750 in today's dollars. And by your final year, age 62, you're earning $93,800 a year already in today's dollars. So this isn't a worst case scenario. This is what a steady, upwardly mobile, middle-class life looks like on paper with no major setbacks. So yeah, $500,000. Well, that sounds pretty good, right? Time to party? But hold on, that money has to last 30 to 40 years. And unless you want to run out, you can't touch more than 4% a year. Some experts say that's even too much. That's $20,000 a year out of your $500,000, $1,666 a month. That's your reward for a lifetime of discipline and sacrifice. There's no room in that for luxury, no trips to Europe, no helping your grandkids with college, just a lean existence. And that's the best case scenario. Let's be real, even this perfect scenario is a fantasy. We assumed you earned more than average, you started young, you contributed every year, you never cashed out, you faced zero major setbacks, and you invested just right, not too safe, not too risky. But what if there were some setbacks? What if you started at 35 instead of 28? You lose 7 critical years of compounding. What if you invested more cautiously? Your returns would shrink. What if you get divorced at 45 and lose half your money? What if you get laid off at 50 and you take a pay cut? You fall short. What if you get cancer in your 40s and you take a year off and you have to cash out 20 or 25%? The nest egg drops again. And on top of all that, you have to guess. When should I take Social Security? How long will I live? How much can I withdraw each year? And what will inflation do to everything? You're expected to be your own investment manager, risk analyst, and fortune teller for 40 years straight. And if you get it wrong, you run out of money just when you need it. So no, this isn't a personal failure. It's a systemic failure dressed up as personal responsibility. We were told just save and invest and you'll be fine. But the truth is, the system is broken. That math never worked, and almost nobody is actually on track. This isn't sustainable, not for individuals, not for families, and not for this country. And the worst thing we can do is stay quiet about it. We have to speak up now and loudly, because this isn't just about money, it's about dignity, security, a decent life after decades of work. If we don't change the system, we're condemning an entire generation to struggle in old age. And that's not just unfair, it's unacceptable. I'm Tom, this is Prima Facie. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.